Good evening. You are watching an exclusive interview for New York's 5th District, and joining me here are incumbent Congressman Gregory Meeks and challenger Paul King. It's a pleasure to have you here. Let's start with our first question. The residents of the 5th District are suffering from high levels of inflation and housing is becoming unaffordable. As a candidate, what steps will you take to ensure that the residents are more economically viable with the hope of restoring fairness and economics for everyone?
As member of the Financial Services Committee, I thank you very much for the question and call it an honor to be in that position because ever since I've been trying to solve the economic issue that we have in our district. First, there's American Dream Down Payment Act that I helped bring to all of our constituents who are trying to make it as homeowners. Another achievement was gaining funds of more than $15 million intended for multiple local project development, which I disposed of through the Consolidated Appropriations Act. There were also initiatives like crossing at Jamaica Station, in which I was provided with more than $20 million in tax incentives from the federal government for investment purposes. From where I stand, creating good-paying jobs and closing the wealth gaps afflicting our increasingly diverse communities is my priority.
Cost of living crisis in Southeast Queens is extreme. Inflation has increased from 1.9% to 9.1%. Tough for our working families. The number of banks will be increased along with the enactment of a forgivable loan program targeting homeownership and the provision of 20% down payment assistance. There is a great need to increase employment opportunities in places like Rockaway. I plan to provide alternative sources of capital and improve banking access in disadvantaged regions. It is about bringing back the American dream to all our citizens.
Considering the persistent flooding problems in Southeast Queens, as well as coastal vulnerabilities, how do you envision the wide range of flooding response actions that you wish to take? What are your infrastructure provision and climate resilience strategies?
To me, infrastructural growth and climate change adaptations are of utmost importance. I've embraced active climate change mitigations through the recent government expenditure bills that station funding for clean energy innovation as well as CTC projects. I've also designed for district floodplain insurance schemes for markets located in high-risk zones to preclude significant escapes of homeowners' premiums. Being part of Financial Services Committee helps me to supervise developments and house projects, which include in particular the housing strategy and assisted housing programs important for our country.
I am quite serious about the need of moving now on infrastructure and flooding throughout Southeast Queens. Let me break it down into two parts. Let's discuss immediate measures such as adding bulkheads to the bayside. And let's also put pressure on the Army Corps to be more aggressive in their timelines for sweeping infrastructure works. After many years of service in Community Board 14, I have absorbed the impacts of the rotten sewer lines to our neighborhoods. It is no longer possible for us to have one or two occasions in a year where we meet to address these matters. Climate change has impacts that need to be addressed right now, even as we work towards a low-carbon economy. I'll be very vocal in respect of emphatic representation of our community services in Congress, and more particularly in relation to infrastructure.
Communities in the district have varying needs, from Bell Harbor to Far Rockaway. What strategies do you have in place to ensure that all neighborhoods have equal access to discrepancies as well as opportunities?
No matter the position, always promoted diversity and equity. This led my efforts in writing the Federal Reserve Racial and Economic Equity Act and improving corporate governance through Diversity Act. Additionally, I assisted the minority depository institutions and the credit unions in underbanked communities via the Enhancing Diversity and Community Banking Act. Queens has quite a diverse population, where I actively promote the voices of the minorities as the chair of the Queens County Democratic Party.
For me, Rockaway, against race and class grievances, has always been the motto. We have to generate community dialogue so that stereotypes can be disputed and gaps between communities become narrower. As a local business owner and civic leader, I pledge to keep my constituents' office hours and recruit local people who are experts in education and transport. My vision is to go over the politics and racial barriers in setting systemic solutions for the whole of the communities. The House of Representatives is for the people, not the party.
Thank you both for your responses. This concludes our interview. We encourage all voters in New York's 5th District to make their voices heard in the upcoming election. Thank you for joining us. See you next week.